When people get sick, usually religion becomes a support system, or a coping strategy. So the idea is to learn why, or if religion is losing its power, its beneficial power with these patients, why this is so.
There's a subgroup of patients with Parkinson's disease who seem to have prolonged reaction times to religious concepts. That is, it takes them longer to access their religious experiences. It's not that they don't have them, it just takes them longer to access it. And so when that happens, a whole series of consequences develop from that fact.
Cognition and Religious Coping in Parkinson's Disease project is looking at how people with Parkinson's access religious concepts and how they can access religious language.
Parkinson's patients have been described as losing this sense of religiosity. So in that sense, they are a model to study which are the neurochemical underpinnings or which are the neural systems that support religion.
The Cognition in Parkinson's Disease project is an attempt to understand the role specifically of the neurotransmitter dopamine in cognition, especially religious cognition, using a wide variety of tests to see what's going on as it influences memory, as it influences impulsivity, as it influences one's resonance, one's ability to understand and react to religious words.
This is based on the previous work in the lab that has shown indeed that Parkinson's patients lose some of the religiosity, and religion ceases to be important to them. And the idea is to figure out why this is happening.
If they are religious and they would have used their religion as a coping mechanism before Parkinson's, they kind of lose that connection, and it might cause some kind of distress within them because they would have turned to God to cope, and now they don't feel that connection with God anymore, and they don't really know why.
They have devised several tasks in which religious terms or words are used, and the idea is to see how those words impact Parkinson's patients.
Dr. McNamara kind of oversees all of the projects. He kind of guides everybody. The basic idea for all of the experiments were made by him. He has all this incredible background in studying science and religion, and everything that we're doing is based on groundwork that he laid.
We're probing the brain correlates of this form of reduced religiosity that's related to the reduced access to religious concepts.
Parkinson's is known for being based on the loss of a particular cell type, a neurotransmitter called dopamine that works in many different domains. So it is important for motor behavior, it is important for cognitive behavior, it is important also for emotion.
Dopamine-producing neurons, which reside in the brainstem, they innervate, that is, they send out axons into the midbrain, into the cerebral cortex, into the forebrain. They die.
And as they do, they stop providing dopamine to certain other areas of the brain, in the basal ganglia and the prefrontal cortex. And of course, this loss of dopamine as a result has these motor symptoms. People have difficulty moving, difficulty expressing emotion, and other types of things. And then you can test what happens with the religious beliefs and the power that religious words have on their cognitive processing. And then you can start creating a model, a neural model of religion.
So when we bring a patient in, we consent them, we explain the whole study to them. There are lots of optional parts that they can choose to participate in. So Oftentimes we'll test the Parkinson's people on and off their medication to see how their results change when they're off.
We have two types of tests. We have computer-based tests and we have paper-based tests. And more or less randomly, we start with either the computer first or the paper first.
We have a series of neuropsych assessments that we give them, and this is just kind of to get a baseline. But they're mostly just memory tests, counting numbers back, drawing pictures, things like that.
There is a second phase where you have computer-driven tests in which the patient sits alone and he is asked to respond by pushing certain buttons depending on the nature of the test.
The computer tests include a religious priming test,
where they're flashed with the phrase, can a person perform this action or not, and then they're primed with either a civic word or a religious word.
Studies of Parkinson's disease patients have shown that they are resistant to being primed with religious concepts.
Say you're at home and you see a commercial from McDonald's, and then you leave and you say, oh, I have a craving for fries. That's because you were primed to want fries from McDonald's.
We show someone a word for just barely long enough for it that if you're looking for it, you can consciously look for it. And then we show them a phrase. And the phrase can be utterly nonsensical, or it could be something that makes sense, which means someone could do.
The idea is that if you're primed with a religious word, when you see the religious phrase, if it's something you can do, you're going to hit yes faster. And we think that people with Parkinson's won't be affected by the priming for the religious words. Another thing that religion has been correlated with is practicing delayed gratification. So in delayed discounting, which measures impulsivity, you're given two different amounts of money, one that you can receive today and one that you can receive at a later time. So the two amounts that you receive, there's a smaller, sooner amount, so you could get $25 today, or a larger, later amount. You can get $33 in 3 weeks. So the idea is that when you're primed with the religious word versus the neutral word, you're more likely to pick the larger, later amount and practice delayed gratification. Now we're seeing that with our healthy controls who don't have Parkinson's, but with the people who do have Parkinson's, they just continue picking the smaller, sooner amount.
The computer tests include a religious statement classification test, where we ask them how do they think this religious statement we show them on the screen, how do people learn it? Is it an experiential learning or is it a doctrinal learning? Is it from what they've experienced in their lives or is it what they've been taught or what they've read?
After the interview and the testing finishes, they are given a package of tests that they have to take home, and if they are willing, they will answer it in their own time. And also the caregiver is also given a package to complement that of the patient. They are also invited to come to the MRI to do a scan, a magnetic resonance scan. Those are the things that are done with the patient. The neuroscientific study of religion is not theology. It's the study of how our brain works with this idea and how that transforms your life or modifies your life. You're studying the behavior, and you can study the experience, and you can study what the different aspects of the mythologies that they have. You can analyze that.
Many people find religion a source of solace or community support, and for those with left onset Parkinson's disease in particular, they tend to just lose interest in religion. Religion stops making sense to them in a sense, and so they lose out to this widely recognized source of support. Understanding that might help with setting up forms of therapy for coping mechanisms with the disease.
Religiosity tends to involve commitment to some sort of higher set of values or ultimate values. It's not just that we cognize these values. It's not that we have a theory of mind about supernatural agents. That's not what religion's about. It's about commitment to those agents and commitment to values. And that we know from thousands of experiments with monkeys and rats and human beings that dopamine is intimately involved in detection and commitment to value. So, in a sense, it's not surprising that dopamine should be involved in religious commitment.
I'm hoping that this can influence an understanding of just what is religion. That great question, religious studies, that is in every religious studies course. What is religion? Cognitive studies and our neuroscience. I don't think it will provide us with the answer, but it will certainly give us the boundary conditions of which types of answers various thinkers from every field under the sun, from theology to sociology, anthropology, philosophy, history, etc. Which of those answers they've given are plausible? Which ones contradict with what we know goes on in the brain when someone is thinking about religion? What they're doing in their brain with religion?